Welcome to Thinking Out Loud, where we dive deep, ask big questions, and explore what really shapes learning at JCHS. I'm Mary Ellen Hunt, Director of Enrollment Management, and your host. Today we're talking with Jennifer Sturgill, the Dean of Visual and Performing Arts at JCHS. She is a master printer who holds an MFA in printmaking from the University of Iowa. She's also somebody who's worked in the art world, working as a gallery manager and working with artists at an invitational fine art press called Aurora Press. Am I saying that right?
That's right.
Aurora Press, and helping them create unique works on paper. So she's a gifted artist as well as a thinker and an incisive and inspiring educator. At JCHS, she oversees the Visual and Performing Arts Department, which serves nearly 75 students in a typical year. And you'll see the work of these students throughout the JCHS campus on the walls. One of the most striking and I think compelling parts of taking Ms. Sturgill's art class, though, is not the finished pieces that you see in the halls, but the invisible. Her emphasis on process, how she guides students into understanding, how to delve into the thought going behind the practice of making art. And that is, in so many ways, even more important than the product itself. So I want to thank you so much for sitting down with us, Ms. Sturgill. Really appreciate your being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I'd love to talk with you a little bit about the philosophy of creating art what would you like the students to have as they, start their work or go into their work? Is there a philosophy behind that?
I help the students understand that there's a balance between control and structure and freedom and intuition. So they feed off of one another, that constraints are actually what is useful for innovation and for ideas. That's a philosophy that I think I try and impart to the students and structure assignments with that in mind, so that there's clear goals and constraints to give it a structure and framework, so that they have the ability to explore intuitively, but with some guidelines and purpose.
Yeah, I think it seems so clear because the pieces they create have discipline to them, and yet a lot of individuality too. So I'm sure the students must appreciate that.
I think so. I think that, but I really also enjoy when students, bring their own ideas and open my mind in terms of approach and problem solving.
It's an interesting part about being a teacher at JCHS, because I think there is a philosophy of, like you learn from the students as much as you teach the students.
That's absolutely true. I'm always learning from them.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about any specific projects that might pop to mind where you can really see that kind of thought developing, that processing develop for a particular student.
I think that, just because we're at the beginning of the year, probably something that's closest to mind that I think could illustrate that notion of structure and freedom is a beginning design project that I do with the materials and methods class that's centered around the idea of visual harmony and harmony of opposing forces. And so there's a Japanese term called notan, which means light-dark balance. And so with that, we use, it's a very tight constraints in that we are simply using black and white paper, and we're actually using the technique of paper cutting and collage. So within that, the students bring their own content and subject matter by doing a pre-writing assignment that asks them to go inward and to consider an experience in which they had a perspective shift or a change of mind about something they may have had a fixed mindset about, or that they would like to have a change of mind about something. So it's asking them to think about this idea of shifting, of going from one side to the other. So that's tied in directly then visually to the idea of opposites of black and white paper. So from there, the assignment project, the technique, is something that, again, has structure to it that I lay out. But I think that what the students enjoy about that at the beginning is that there's something a little more objective about cutting paper into shapes rather than drawing marks on paper, which can really reveal the individuality and it's a very personal process, drawing, whereas it's a little bit more a step away. So it's an entry into this process of like how you work with a visual language, but with your own content in a way that sort of makes sense to them and is satisfying visually in the end. So it's, in a way, it's sort of like a guaranteed success. You want to have that early on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a project that I love seeing too. And I'm wondering, for students who are just coming into working with you, is it hard for them to kind of get into that project and get started with it? I know sometimes students or people, anyone, looks at, an assignment and says, oh, I have no idea. I don't know where to start. How do you get them kind of unlocked?
Yes, it's definitely a process. That is right, the art of teaching, for sure, is breaking it down. So I'll start off with a small sort of dry run project, and I'll do a demonstration for them so that they can see in real time how to actually do it, putting the rubber on the road, right? And so once they see that there's a sequence of steps, that gives them the path that they can go down themselves. And the prompts are very clear, so they all come in knowing how to write and think. And so, they're already bringing so much knowledge and experience to this. I mean, they've been in an art room before. They've had, they're in high school, so they've had art before. None of this is completely foreign to them.
Yeah.
But I understand what you mean in terms of looking at a finished product and how did it go from nothing to this, right? This the final thing. And so all of the steps that go into it. But we work in sketchbooks, so that's another way that the students work out ideas for what they want to do, say in the notan paper cut design, is that they actually have their own sort of thinking out loud container, the sketchbook, as a way to sort of try out different ideas before they get started. So all of that is something that they use. Very
low stakes. Nobody has to worry about it.
Right, yeah.
So one of the things that I think often seems so impressive, and when we have visitors, they comment on it all the time, the high degree of quality that's apparent in the works that students are producing, whether that's, somebody taking materials and methods at beginning level class or AP Studio. It has that sense of being well crafted. And I'm hearing you talk about these steps and sort of road mapping the process. But I'm wondering if you could break down for us a little bit more about how you infuse that level of quality into what they produce so that they feel like, oh, yes, craftsmanship is really there, as well as that individuality and intuition, as you say.
This is something that I instill from the very beginning. I think that I am very sensitive to detail and aesthetic and quality myself. So just in my own work and when I seek it out. But also I come from a family of artists and craftspeople. So this was something that was instilled in me and just how I was raised, that to know how to use tools and how to use them properly and how to care for them. And also all of the different noticings and sensitivity that you can gain through just being aware and having the knowledge of the different kinds of materials and tools that you use to make art. And so it's important that if you want a certain quality, for example, a really clean cut, that you have a sharp X-Acto knife, right? And so the sharpness of the blade is going to give you the kind of visual mark or shape that you're looking for. And so, from the very beginning, we look at the X-Acto knife blades, and we looked at how to change a blade and how to find a new one, how to test whether it is sharp enough. We I teach them how to hold and carry paper so that it doesn't get wrinkled and dented. I mean, these things matter. Also, and just in terms of image making, I mean, a quarter of an inch can make the difference in whether something has a feeling of resolution or whether it has that needed tension that gives the work the time of day. So from the very beginning, help the students develop their own sensitivity and awareness to these kinds of small, maybe it seems insignificant, but they can make all the difference in the world, aspects that can give a work a sense of quality.
It must be amazing for them also to be able to develop that eye as they're looking at great works of art, to notice those things.
Definitely. I think that they just notice some things in their world, hopefully, in a new way that's has a more keen, sharpened sense of perception and vision or questioning. Just makes your life richer.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think is the biggest takeaway that you would like a student to have? They've gone through art classes. Maybe they've taken one, maybe they've taken four. But what are you hoping that they have with them to take into their lives?
That's a harder question to ask. I mean, I really would be interested in asking the students, what it is for them. But I mean, I would hope that they look back on the art class or art classes they had as just a positive experience. And not something that is, intimidating or something that they need to fear. A lot of students come in with various kinds of experiences and a lot of insecurity, understandably, for what they question about their own abilities. But that it's really not so much about inherent talent, but it's about an openness of mind. And so I guess I would just hope that would be something that they would have through the process of art making, and through that seeing that it is a process, and that number one, you can improve, and number two, you can discover things that you didn't know about yourself, that's just something that they can apply to other things in their life.
Amazing. I love that. That's part of this whole process. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. I really appreciate your taking the time. And thank you so much for joining us today. If you've enjoyed our conversation, please be sure to follow us by clicking subscribe. Each week we talk with a member of the JCHS community about what really matters in learning and a uniquely JCHS approach to education.